Welcome, everyone. I'm Adam Hodges, editor of Colorado Triathlete, and I'm excited to talk here today with Benedikt Bettin, the 2022 National Collegiate Champion in both the draft legal sprint event and the Olympic distance race. Benedikt led the University of Colorado Triathlon team to a second place finish at the USA Triathlon Collegiate Club Nationals at the beginning of April. So thanks for being with us here today, Benedikt.
Of course, yeah.
Why don't we just kick things off by talking a little bit about how you ended up at CU Boulder? I know you're from Germany. I think you're studying physics. Is that your major at CU?
Yeah.
Could you talk a little bit about what factored into your decision to come to Colorado?
So I grew up my entire childhood in Berlin, lived in the same place pretty much first 18 years of my life. And I kind of felt like I wanted to explore the world a little bit. And I was like, I was thinking about studying abroad, and then looked at universities, and Colorado is just such a cool place, like the mountains. And just also, I was doing triathlon before I got here, so that was a factor too. And I knew that Boulder was a great place to train. And I also knew I wanted to do physics, and CU is also a great place to study physics. So all of that kind of came together and worked out pretty well. Yeah, I'm really happy here.
That's great. And this is you're finishing up your third year, is that correct?
Yeah, I finished up my third year yesterday at my last exams.
Congratulations. So one more year left and then you graduate?
Exactly. Yeah.
So you plan to be back next year and race at Collegiate Nationals again?
Yeah.
Excellent.
So.
Great. Well, could you talk a little bit about what got you into triathlons? You said you were into triathlons in Germany before you came here. Were you a single sport athlete that sort of caught the triathlon bug, or did you actually grow up doing multi-sport?
I wasn't really a single sport athlete. I played soccer a bit growing up because that's really popular in Germany, but soon had to realize that I'm not really that good at soccer. I'm actually pretty bad. But when I was playing soccer, I always dreamed of being like a professional soccer player one day. So like being a competitive athlete thing has been with me for a bit, but I was terrible at soccer. And then I didn't really know what to do, and I tried out a couple of things, but nothing was really super fun. And then through my in middle school, someone at my school organized like a local triathlon thing, and I just did it for fun. I did it in my Speedo on my commuter bike, like very, very slowly. I could swim a little bit, but I was barely swimming, and that was my start, but I really enjoyed it, and soon signed up for like a local triathlon club and started training. Yeah, and I was 12 when I did my first. That was my first triathlon.
You're 12, okay. And then the local triathlon club, you were racing through your high school years there.
Yeah. So yeah, I was part of the local triathlon, and I'm still a member there, and always like to come back there when I'm in Germany. And it's a super great environment. Like that club is just, I like my little brother also joins, and even my parents picked up a little triathlon, and it's a great community. And I think that's also a big part of why I enjoyed it so much. It's just the people there were so nice. And yeah,
that's great. Well, let's talk a little bit about your recent wins at USAT Collegiate Nationals. You started off 2 back-to-back days of racing with the draft legal sprint race. I was looking at the results. It looked like it must have been a pretty exciting finish because you outran the second place finisher to win the race in about 10 seconds. So could you walk us through how that race played out for you?
Yeah. So this one, or I'm going to start ahead. I kind of imagined the race to play out the way it did, because the second place, Milan, I raced them 4 weeks before at the Sarasota Continental Cup. And so I knew he was very similar to me, and I like the level of where he's at. So that's what I thought the race would plan out. But when we started, my swim start was not very good, and I kind of messed it up a little bit. And I actually had a pretty big gap at the first buoy to the lead 2 people. And I had to close that down on the second half of the swim. And for a second, at the beginning of the swim, I thought to myself, oh no, I already messed this up. Just I waited so long to finally race Collegiate Nationals. And then it for a second it felt like it was already over, like a minute into a race. But I've been swimming really well, and once I think it probably had to do a lot with how cold it was that morning,
Mm.
that I just like, it took me a second to just, because the water was so cold, to get adjusted. And then once I got that down, I closed the gap, and then I broke away with Milan on the bike. It was just us two, and from there on, I felt pretty in control. Like I made sure not to overwork myself, make him work a little bit too, all that, a little bit of tactics involved, obviously, but we worked together well. And that, yeah, we got onto the run, and it seemed like we were both like testing each other out a little bit at first, like seeing, oh, how are we feeling? But it ultimately was clear to me from the start that we were most likely just going to sprint, because with the next race in mind, no one wanted to like run flat out from the start,
Mm-hmm.
and that's at least what my mindset was. Like I didn't want to, if possible, not run all out right from the start, because I wanted to conserve a little bit. And so we kind of were looking at each other a little bit. It was a little tactical. And then because like the last half mile, I want to say, is a downhill. Just before that downhill, I had the day before looked at it, and I had set a point on the course. I was like, if it comes down to like a couple people towards the end of the race, this is where I want to kick. And that was about half mile from the finish. And because I knew it was right before a downhill, and with how steep that downhill was, like it would be hard to pass someone. And that's exactly what I did, and it worked out really well. And in the end, for like how close we were in the entire race, the 10 seconds felt like pretty clear to me. Like it
Mm-hmm.
was, once I kicked, I didn't really turn back, but I was pretty sure I had it.
So you were basically running with him for most of the run then.
Yeah,
You,
yeah,
you came off the bike together and all the way
exactly.
up to that end then.
Yeah, exactly. And
Wow.
he's a great athlete himself.
Mhm.
He beat me that race a couple weeks before, so I knew it was going to be tough to beat him, but it worked out the way I had like kind of planned it out in my head pretty well.
Yeah, that's great. Well, and then you came back the next day on the Saturday for the Olympic distance race. And the swim there was shortened, right? It was
Yeah.
shortened to only 600 meters because of the low water temperatures that day. And then the bike was just slightly longer than standard Olympic distance, so it was 41 kilometers. But again, you turned in a blistering run, so you put down a 31:19 for the 10K off the bike, and won that race by a minute and a half. So, how did that race feel for you? Was it not as close as the day before? Maybe you can walk us through how that played out?
I feel like mentally it was tougher. Just I think I may have made a few mistakes on Friday after the draft legal race, as in I was a little too much on my feet because I was
Mm.
excited, and then I was like, I already started building, like packing up my road bike, because we were flying with those, and so I already started packing up that. And then in the evening, I realized like, oh wow, I haven't really relaxed, and I'm like tired, really tired now. Like, and I was like, I still have to do an Olympic tomorrow, and that kind of settled in then. And I hadn't really thought about a race a lot before that, because I just wanted to take it one race at a time. But I trusted myself in knowing the way I've been training. I knew that I could handle it, but it was definitely tough, especially with how early the races are. We're like waking up at 5 a.m. and we woke up that Saturday, and I said to people on the training room, like, I can't believe I have to race another time. I did not feel good. And I was complaining the whole warm up in the morning. I was like, I'm so tired. I don't, but it's like I kind of gotta trust yourself there, that once the gun goes off, and I knew that, like, once the gun goes off, I won't think about that. I will just give it whatever I have. And but still it was tough. The bike was really hard for me, because I had a lot of people from Queen's University around me. It was like five of them or something with me at the front. And just mentally being like, oh, there's five of these guys and none of them have raced the day before. It was just tough, because
Mhm.
it felt like I was alone against five people, although we're all like in our own, we're all racing on our own, but still. And that, but then as soon as we got on the run, I I felt pretty confident. Like because there's one person running out right in front of me, and that guy, just from the first steps, I'd look at him and I was like, wow, I could just tell that he was like destroyed from the bike. And I was like, I don't feel that bad. All of a sudden, like we got off the bike and all of a sudden I started feeling good again.
Mm-hmm.
But in that moment, like before, I completely did not think I was gonna win. Like I was just like, oh, I hope I can get like top 5 or something. That was like the mindset. And I felt almost defeated already on the bike because it was so hard. And I was like, oh, I'm pushing way too hard. And but then we get on the run, and all of a sudden, like a minute into run, I was like, wow, I can win this. And that's when it clicked. And I was like, okay, this is like, now this is my shot. And I just, compared to the other race, I said, oh, there's no holding back now. And like, I'm not doing any tactics. I'm just running all out from the start. And I think that reflects the run split too, which that was a really fast run. I ran as hard as I could until the finish.
So how many guys did you pass on the run?
Well, I pretty much, because I got off the bike in second with that group.
Okay.
So I pretty much only passed one person right at the start, and then I was off the front. But since it wasn't out and back, I saw them, like mostly the Queens people that were like close behind me.
Yeah.
And so like the first turnaround, I felt like pretty confident, but just turning around and seeing 4 people of the same schools chasing you is just, I was like, okay, he's like this isn't over. They're definitely determined to catch me, but I think the first lap it was also like just 30 seconds or so I was ahead, and then but I was able to stay on pace, I guess, or maybe even increase a little bit. I'm not quite sure how the 2 laps compare, but yeah, it got a little more clear on the second lap, so I was able to enjoy like the last bit.
Yeah, that's great. I'm sure that's daunting watching all the teammates from Queens working together, trying to reel you in. But do you think the shortened swim, was that a benefit or a detriment to you, or how would you?
I think it's probably not a benefit. Just knowing, like, I've been swimming really well this year in the pool, and with my training partners, like I've been swimming with probably some of the best triathlete swimmers in the world this winter, and like Morgan Pearson, for example. And like knowing like if I can hang with him in workouts, like I know swim is definitely not my weakness. And so I was somewhat frustrated with the shortened swim, but I was also looked at it from, that makes the entire race shorter, and being a little tired, maybe if the race, I don't think if the race was, because I ended up feeling pretty strong on the run, but before I started, I was like, maybe this is just exactly what I need, a little shorter race.
Yeah. So it actually turned out the Olympic distance swim was shorter than the sprint distance swim the day before, wasn't it? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of an interesting turn of events. So, well, you adapted well. And I mean, you definitely had like you said, it was a fast run. I mean, I don't think anybody finished even close to you at the end of that run. I mean, you pretty much pulled away, right? Yeah. And then I know you're also racing on the World Triathlon circuit. You mentioned the race in Sarasota. You went down to Ecuador recently. You had a top 10 performance there. Could you tell us a little bit about the rest of your goals for the 2022 season?
Yeah, it's all about, like, for me right now is just gaining points in the world ranking and moving up spots. And because I'm still like fairly new to the World Triathlon circus and like that whole thing. So I'm just trying to like gain experience and gain points as much as possible. It's a little more out of the comfort zone going to different foreign countries. Like Ecuador was a crazy experience. Just I've never been to South America before, and there's definitely like a lot around the race that's a little more stressful than maybe doing a collegiate race. Just because you're also on your own, you don't really have a lot of teammates around you. Like I'm fortunate enough that now I know quite a few people in that scene. So every race I feel like there's someone I kind of know or something, and that's great. But it's a lot more out of the comfort zone there, and a lot more things that can go wrong, I guess.
Yeah.
But I've been very lucky to, like, the 2 World Triathlon races I've done this year so far went pretty well. Sarasota, I was 15th. Now I was at 9th in Ecuador. And yeah, it's always a learning experience. Like every race, I feel like I take away something with it. Like, and yeah, I feel like I'm getting more and more comfortable with those races. So I would say my goals, or I think this, yeah, ultimately I want to be able to race World Cups this year. Like that's the goal. And for to be nominated for World Cups with the German Federation, I have to be in the top 200 in the world. So that's the first goal, which now after those two races, I'm not too far off that. So hopefully I can race a World Cup soon. That'll be pretty awesome. And then also in the back of my mind, but that's not something that has to happen this year necessarily, but I would want to race the under 23 World Championship, which I still have like this year and then 2 more years to do that. So, but that's definitely something I would love to do one day.
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds great. Well, you still got another year of college left to
Yeah.
continue your progress there towards the World Cup. And maybe you could talk a little bit more about how you juggle being a student with the World Triathlon circuit racing and, going to all these places. You're traveling during the semester.
Yeah.
Now the semester's over, but you had Sarasota, you had Ecuador, you had collegiate nationals all taking place within this spring semester, and you're studying physics. So how do you juggle everything?
It's definitely not easy. And there's some moments where it's really stressful and you feel like you're not getting any rest, especially with I've been this semester training really a lot. Like it's like usually I have 2 rest days a week, but all the other days are at least 3 training sessions per day. So
Mhm.
it's busy but I feel like I have a pretty good, that's like, I would say if I have a talent, it's just being able to manage that and being able to go from being a student to being an athlete back and forth kind of. And that also includes like doing homework, doing assignments on the plane or at the airport. Like on my trip back from Ecuador, I had a layover for 4 hours in Panama and I wrote a final paper for a class in that time. Stuff like that you have to do. And also, for example, at Collegiate Nationals, the night before the draft legal race, where we had to get up at 5 a.m. because race start was 7:30 or something. So pretty early wake up. But I was actually taking a quantum mechanics exam until 11 that night.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, it's sometimes it's really tough, but I also like that sometimes it takes my mind off the triathlon thing for a
Mhm.
bit, like I know a lot of people like that I'm racing now in the World Triathlon races. Triathlon is what they focus on, and that's their full time, not job, but like, or maybe it is their job, but like that's what they do full time. And so that's also can be a lot of pressure at times because if a race goes bad, that's like all you have. Whereas, I kind of have that mindset of like, oh, if things may not go that well in the sport, I still have my academics to focus on. And it's just great not having everything like set and just having those options, like not being
Mhm.
having that like huge pressure of like, yeah, like, yeah, just not having as much pressure sometimes because of
Yeah,
it.
no, I think you explained that well. Maybe could you walk us through maybe the last 2 weeks before collegiate nationals and just kind of what your schedule looked like, what your training schedule looked like and how you fit
Yeah,
that in?
sure. So 2 weeks before Collegiate Nationals, we had our conference championship at Lake Havasu, Arizona. And that was, yeah, so we got back on Sunday, like pretty much 13 days out or 12. And that was actually like after Sunday, Monday started our spring break. So it was nice. I had a week off of classes that week, but it was quite busy with training and everything. Usually Monday's easy day, then Tuesdays I do a track session in the morning and then easier biking and swimming. And then Wednesdays are usually like a hard swim session and Thursdays I do a hard bike session. And then that was like my last hard workouts were like right off that race and like Havasu, which for that race we didn't really taper, or I didn't taper for it because I wanted to be, I wanted to be in peak shape at nationals. So I didn't really, I trained through that, I would say pretty well. So I like on that Tuesday after that race, which so the race was Saturday. So the Tuesday afterwards, quick turnaround for an Olympic distance. I had a really hard track workout again. And those were like my last couple hard sessions. And then the weekend, like a week out, was still quite easy. And then next week we filled with school again, had tried to like do as much schoolwork, before traveling. And then we flew out Wednesday morning pretty early. And I, like, on the layover, once again, like did some, like, caught up with the classes that happened that morning, and then did some more homework and studying for that exam I just told you about.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's it. And I, like, for the race days themselves, like that's where like the race days, I did not do any schoolwork, just because I also need to set some priorities, and I planned out ahead of time so I could do that and could take those days off of school. And then on Sunday we were flying back, and I was already doing homework again.
Yeah.
On the travel back.
Well, it's
And
great that you were able to take that exam online the night before the draft.
Yeah, I was really like communicated with the professor well in advance as soon as I knew, and was glad that it worked out. It also worked out 2 weeks before for our conference championships. I had another exam which I was able to take online, and that's also been great that the coaches of the CU Triathlon team can proctor those exams as well. And so that's great as well. I'm super thankful that that's an option. And that's really what enabled me being able to miss a few classes, is just that stuff like that is possible. And I think that's probably also maybe something since COVID that is a little easier, being able to do stuff online. People are more used to it. And so, yeah, it's just, I think probably 2-3 years ago, that would not have been as easy. Like if I was, can I take this exam remotely, they probably wouldn't have worked that well, but it did, and I was really glad I could do it. But obviously still, the night before a race, my thoughts, I'm going to be honest, it's not easy. And I like before the exam, I was like, I'm already thinking about the race so much, I don't know if I can even focus on it, but turned out well.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you're disciplined in academics, and that carries over to your triathlon, or maybe it's the other way. Maybe it's your discipline in the triathlon that carries over to your academics, or maybe they're just mutually reinforcing. But I think you set an amazing example there. Maybe you could talk a little bit more about what inspires you. Like, what inspires you to race at this level? What motivates you?
Yeah, I think ultimately I'm a person, I really want to do well myself and see how far I can take myself in the sport. That's where my motivation comes from. And that's also part of the reason why I was talking about some of this a couple of weeks ago. I feel like I get equally nervous no matter how big or small the race may be. Like I don't really feel a difference if it's a World Triathlon race or just we're doing a time trial here at CU. Kind of, I always get nervous just because I want to do as best as I possibly can, and that's it. And I don't really feel pressure like from outside or anything. Because I know the pressure I kind of put on myself to do as best as I can is always bigger, And that's kind of, I think, where it's coming from. And I'm fortunate enough to have, with my training partners and everything, I have like now so many amazing athletes around me that are also really inspiring. And to see people like, I mentioned Morgan, also Taylor Knibb, I've been working out with her a lot. And those people are so accomplished and so also like very inspiring to work with. And just seeing that is really motivating as well. Because ultimately I want to be like those people one day.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Was there anybody that you watched when you were younger, on your triathlon club in Germany that you said that you sort of looked up to and said, those are people that really inspire me and I want to try to emulate what they're doing?
I'm not really sure if like people older than me, but I have some friends that were like similar age than me at the triathlon club, but were already much more serious about the training. And they really inspired me, and I'm still friends with those people to this day. And one of them is like probably one of my best friends. He lives in Germany, and he's also still doing what I'm doing right now, doing the World Triathlon races. And like I kind of follow their footsteps a little bit because I saw that, and like they're my age, but so like when I started out, so much more like invested in the sport and so more competitive about it. And I was like, wow, that's really, really inspiring. And I wanted to be like that. So.
Well, do you have any, thinking about inspirations? I mean, I'm sure you're an inspiration for some younger triathletes right now who want to come and race, at the college level, at the collegiate level, and potentially move into, the World Triathlon circuit, like you've done. Do you have any advice for younger high school athletes who are looking towards college and trying to figure out, what should I do? Should I go and race triathlon in college, or should I focus on a single sport in college? I don't know. Do you have any advice for those younger triathletes?
Yeah, sure. I think really important. I know a lot of people say this, but I think the most important part is having fun with it. Because I get up every day and it's tough, the training and all, but I'm like, this is exactly what I want to be doing. And if I could choose, no matter what I want to be doing, it would be this. So like, this is like living the dream kind of. And I think that's the most important thing. Do what makes you happy. And also my freshman year, for example, I was not nearly as competitive as I was now. And I was just enjoying, the college life a little more. But the CU Triathlon team is such a great team, and it was so fun. And that's, I think, the most important part is having fun. You have great teammates. And I think then if you have like fun with the people around you, you can push yourself to do all this other cool stuff. But really, it comes from having fun together, kind of. And also, I think an important part is just looking at maybe where you want to go to college too. Is just, I don't think what I said earlier with academics and sports, I don't think anyone should just look at sports, because you never know what's going to happen. Like beginning of my second semester freshman year, I injured myself running. I rolled my ankle pretty badly. I had to get surgery on it, and I was out for a little bit, and then COVID hit. But I had a couple months where I was here at school and I couldn't train, and it's obviously tough, but that can always happen. And I want to be prepared. And I think everyone should be prepared that triathlon doesn't really work out the way you expect it. So you obviously want to be in a place where you want to be, even if triathlon doesn't work out. And I know Boulder is that place for me, that even if I couldn't do triathlon, I would still enjoy my time here.
Yeah, well, and speaking about your other endeavors, your studies and your degree in physics, which you'll get next year. Do you have any future plans for what you want to eventually do? Do you want to go on and continue studying physics, or work as a scientist at some point, or what does that part of your life sort of look like?
Yes, I'm like in the process, now seeing like people are a year older than me graduating, trying to figure out, okay, what do I want to do? And I want to go to grad school for physics. That's, I think, the next step. And then, work as a physicist one day. But also, I think going to grad school would enable me, hopefully, to doing the triathlon competitively. And that's what I want to do, that because I'm not, I know I have 1 year of college, but I don't plan on stopping with triathlon after that. I want to continue and see where that takes me to. And that's the way I can explore both of those things at the same time.
And your home right now is in Boulder. You've been here for 3 years. Is this a place where you potentially think you might sort of establish as your training base as you continue your career in triathlon, or do you envision going back to Europe to train and live, or what are your thoughts there?
I could definitely see myself here in Boulder for longer. I mean, first my visa is up after I graduate, so I can't. It's not quite that easy, but
right.
Yes, I definitely enjoy it here, and just with also my training partners outside of school, I have a great system and great people to work with. So I could definitely see myself training here in Boulder for when my degree is over. That's definitely an option, but I know there's also an option to go back to Germany, do graduate school there, and there's also great places to train in Germany. So yeah, I'm not decided on that yet.
Yeah. Well, keeping your options open.
Yeah.
Well, final question. I just want to ask you, what are your 3 favorite races? And they don't have to be races you've actually done. They could be races that that you've watched and maybe you're aspiring to do someday. But what are three favorite races that you have?
I think my favorite has to be, and this will be a race that took part last year, just taking part again, as the German championships at the elite level or sprint distance are in Berlin. Where last year are going to be in Berlin again this year, where I grew up, like on the exact same roads where I did my first bike ride on. And so it's very emotional racing there, and also just super special. And that last year was a really good race for me, and I'm really looking forward to doing that again. So that's my favorite, just because it's right where I grew up. Other than that, I really want to do WTCS Hamburg one day, just highest level of draft legal triathlon in Germany. That's definitely one. And I'm not sure. I want to say I really enjoyed Georgia. The course at Collegiate Nationals was fun, but yeah, I heard I have a teammate, a training partner from Georgia, and she told me some little scary things about that lake. Apparently it's haunted, so I'm not sure if I actually want to go back or not. But I really enjoyed that race. The bike course is rolling. It's really fun. And yeah, maybe if I don't know where Collegiate Nationals are next year, but it was fun.
Well, that's great. Well, really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us here today. I know we'll probably be featuring you in a lot more coverage on the Colorado Triathlete website. So good luck with the rest of this year. And of course, we'll be following you across next year as you return to Collegiate Nationals. So thank you so much for talking with me today.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.